Stevie, for those who've never met you before, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Okay, well, I was born in Wales, in Caerphilly, Wales, close whereby Catherine Zeta-Jones and Tom Jones were born. And then I moved to this country when I was 2 years old, and because my parents were Australians. My father was an obstetrician and specialist, and he was studying over there, and we came back here. At about 4, I came to the Gold Coast and grew up on Burleigh Beach, and I went to Burleigh State School and then Miami High School. But about at the age of 7, my mother thought it'd be a good idea to teach me how to dance a girl around a room. So I was kicking and screaming and told her that I hated girls, which is typical. And so my mother took me to my first ballroom dancing class, and I fell in love with the ballroom dancing teacher, who was about 25, I think, at the time. And within about 5 minutes, I was just hooked. And so I went through from the age of 7 to 19, and then turned pro and became a dance pro. And opened up a school and, well, became part of a big ballroom dancing school in Surfers Paradise. My mother and father came to me and they said, "Look, you're a brilliant little dancer, but can you do something conservative for us, son?" And I said, "Well, what? I'm happy to do this." And they said, "Look, can you do a profession?" So my father wouldn't let me do medicine. So I said, "Well, what about law?" So I studied law, went to Queensland University, and then down to the Gold Coast for my professional years. And I became admitted as a lawyer when I was at a very young age, too young. I was 22, and opened up my own practice at Mermaid Beach, Nobby Beach, and that's where I've been ever since. I think with regard to music, I was asked to sing a couple of songs for Miss Miami High. And so I sang the songs with the girl that actually won Miss Miami High that night. And I got a standing ovation. And then I put the guitar away in the cupboard and never saw it again for another 30 years. So my whole life has been the law, criminal law, across the broad spectrum of the law, commercial litigation and whatnot. So, and then in 1996, I met, by bizarre circumstance, Michael Hutchins, and was via my brother, Colin, who was Michael's partner, like financial partner, not lawyer, financial partner. And yeah, I met him briefly 3 times in 1996, and then in 1997 I was asked to go down and run his funeral because he'd passed over. And so I went down there, and my brother was extremely upset about his Passover, so I handled the funeral. And then life went on, and I came back to the law. But in about 1996, about the time I met him, I sort of started, I found my little red guitar, and I'd separated from my former wife in 1995, and got divorced, because my main focus was the law and looking after daughters, because I've got 3 daughters. And so life was pretty full. But I just sort of started writing the first sort of little remnants of songs, and it's growing. It just I had no idea how much, what was being written. I just catalogued it and put it away. And then in about 2004, it sort of progressed really slowly, and at the same time I was writing I thought I'd try to write motion picture scripts, but only as a result of someone saying you should write a script, you should write a movie script. And I started writing on the 17th of April 2001. But in 1997, when I attended the funeral of Michael, something very strange happened, and as the coffin passed me, I felt like I'd been walked through. And then and even at the cremation, I lost my hearing. I lost my hearing, and it was the middle of summer, but I was freezing. So I went through some sort of strange reaction to it, and then I never gave it another thought. And a few years went by, and I was just writing the poetry and writing little songs and that sort of stuff. And then I started writing a script in 2001.
Stevie, tell us a little bit about your project, Breaking the Fourth Wall.
It's a futuristic rock star movie, which commences in around about 2005 and goes through till 2021. So this is an enormously entertaining film about the entertainment industry. You know, the rock star has a name, Stevie Star, and the lawyer's name is Michael Hush. It does have some facets of truth, but there's also fantasy there, and it is working through an amazing discharge. It's got 15 to 20 locations around the world. In parts it's absolutely hilarious, and then it's absolutely gut-wrenching. I've got an alter ego, the manager and gopher of the rock star is a character by the name of Johnny Dark, and he is basically jealous, extremely jealous of his boss, and he attempts to be his own rock star. And there's some hilarious moments in the film which he counterbalances the character and personality of the rock star to, you know, allow the audience to see the true rock star of the film. You know, there's a French model by the name of Coco Christian, and there is an English personality by the name of Paris Tams. So it's a very well balanced. You know, I've spent a lot of time on that particular screen story. It was edited by Professor Hunter Corday, who unfortunately passed over last year.
What inspired Breaking the Fourth Wall, Stevie?
I guess Breaking the Fourth Wall was inspired because of Michael Hutchence, what he gave the world, and the messages that he sent in his music and his lyrics. And they weren't just hit songs, they were messages to the planet. Towards the end of his career, he was writing, you know, he was writing from the heart and writing from his personal experience, which was like a roller coaster, probably, you know, in his mind. So there was a lot of amazing music written, you know. But what inspired the movie to be actually really triggered was I was dragged out of bed every weekend, and I'd be on a jet and I'd go to Sydney every weekend, and I would go and remain within room 524 where Michael passed over. And it was not, you know, it was just something that I did every weekend, and because I felt safe there, because I felt connected. I would walk the streets of Cross Street and Bay Street, up and down. I'd go and lie in the parks. I'd go and sit in coffee shops, and you know, the owners of the coffee shops would come out and they'd say, "Why did you choose that seat?" And I'd say, oh, because it feels comfortable and it's in a corner and I can write and have some coffees. And they said, they would often say, someone very, very famous would often come and sit in that seat. And I said, oh, really? Yeah. I think I might know who that was. So it was quite bizarre. So 2005 I just started writing. I started writing all sorts of material. And sort of dedicating myself to finishing off projects, but at the same time allowing myself to, how do I put it? Allowing myself to listen, to listen to the other side, you know. Sometimes he gets a bit frustrated with me because I'm not talking to him. Well, I do talk to him all the time, but you know, look, he's very gung-ho. He's very gung-ho about, you know, and he's actually saying right now, look, just Stevie, can you get me off the ceiling? He says, get me off the ceiling. You know, like, you know, you tell everyone, you've got great talent, you've got amazing talent, you step up to the mark. And I say, well, yes, but I will always honour this soul from the afterlife. I will always honour him, because he's been an amazing, amazing man. I stayed in room 524 until its closure in 2010, and then it was closed and was going to be sold and everything like that, and I think it's changed hands now, but it was formerly the Stanford Plaza at Double Bay. And of course, along with writing the script, I've written all the music for the movie as well.
Tell us a little bit about your project, The Sentimental Girl.
The Sentimental Girl started in my mind, not consciously, but I was down in Lura, and Hunter Corday, my editor and great friend, was editing Alexandra, which is another feature film I've written. And I stayed at the Carrington and Hydro Majestic hotels in Lura. And I was in one of the colonial rooms of the Carrington Hotel, actually. And I felt sort of a strange energy inhabit me. And I was with my girlfriend at the time, who'd come along, and went downstairs to have breakfast. And it was in this big room, which I sort of thought could have been like a ballroom, but it was like a breakfast bar. Anyway, I was hungry at the time, but then I completely lost my hunger, and I told Gloria said to Gloria, sit down and have breakfast. And I went out and had a chat to the people at reception, and I said, there's something really familiar or bizarre in that room. And they said, oh, well, this is a very famous hotel, and this is where, in that room, that's where the Sentimental Bloke, not the Sentimental Bloke, the Blue Mountains Murder Mystery had been filmed with directors Raymond Longford and Lottie Lyle. In 2012, I took my mother and Gloria, my girlfriend in Sydney, out to Bathurst to see relatives, and I was at the you know, the Bathurst 500 racetrack in the hotel in the middle of that, and I was waiting for them to get ready, and so I went over and picked up a garden magazine, and I opened it up, bang, and right on the page was this woman with long dark hair and brown eyes looking right out at me, and it ended up being Lottie Lyle. And I went, oh my God. So I went to reception and asked them whether I could take the book or buy it, or, you know, and so I brought it back to the Gold Coast and started thinking, this lady is so intriguing. Anyway, I started collecting notes on it, and on Raymond Longford and Lottie Lyle. Boxes of notes, boxes, anywhere I could find it. I was sitting there in the dark, and they said, just push the boxes away and write it. It took 2 weekends and 4 hours. So it took 10 hours on Saturday, Sunday, and 4 hours on the following Monday, and it was done. Even down to the last 15 seconds, I knew when I had to put the full stop down. So I registered it. I registered the Sentimental Girl, and it's a love story about the lives of Lottie Lyle and Raymond Longford, and it's a story like no other, and it's got to be made because Lottie Lyle and Raymond Longford started film in Australia. They started the first beginnings of film, and they were geniuses because they had one camera, and in doing what they've done with one camera with a sentimental bloke is just incredible, you know. And most of those films, early silent films, were destroyed in a massive fire in Melbourne, and there's a couple of remaining films. So this film is an amazing dedication to two people who loved each other beyond this earth and who are buried in the same grave on the northern side of Sydney Harbour Bridge. And so a few years went by, and then in the last year or so, I've written another sector dedicating Raymond Longford, which has brought it up to about a 2.5 hour picture. And I've had it read by people in the Australian film industry, and they just absolutely adore it, love it. And so I'm on my way to pooling the funds together to have the film made. Right, it's set in the early 19th century, between like about 1910, and goes right through to Raymond Longford's death in 1958. So you've got the intervening wars and that sort of thing. But Lottie Lyle, she passed away at a very young age from tuberculosis. She died at 35 in 1925, and it's an amazing story, and it is actually told through the eyes of Raymond Longford, who, you know, died at the age of 80. You know, it brings in the first beginnings of Australian television, you know, with some, you know, interviews and that sort of thing. But it's set on the Sydney wharves, but every single location, you know, for the Sentimental Girl actually exists, and it's still there, even to the tiles on the floor of these theatres were the tiles that Raymond Longford and Lottie Lyle walked across, right throughout, you know, when they were stage actors, theatre actors, to film actors, all set in Victoria, you know, New South Wales, a little bit of Queensland, but and the Blue Mountains, Sydney, you know, covers the Charleston era, the wild Charleston era of the 20s, and it's an amazing story. And it's got to. I'm just the messenger. I'm just the messenger, and I've taken it down. I'm sure that I've channeled. I'm absolutely positive. I couldn't have done it that quickly without being channeled and being told exactly what to say. So I can't take all the credit.
Stevie, tell us a little about Lark Ascending.
It commences on the eve of World War I. The main character is a character by the name of Marion Forsyth, who's the daughter, one of two daughters of Lord Forsyth. He runs politically the government in London. Whether there's a Prime Minister there or not, he runs it. And so Marion goes to the world because World War I has broken out, or is about to break out, and she takes the music to the world to attempt to stop World War I, and it covers locations like the whole of the Eastern Bloc. She tours right throughout Europe. Then the other side of the world is Australia. So it's the mother country and the colony, as it were. And so there's another story that begins in Australia, and a young science genius by the name of Ewan Law, who's the son of the Vice Chancellor of Melbourne, is given a posting. He's given a posting to Oxford University, much to the upset of his father, who wants him to become a professor at Melbourne University. So it spans 100 years, and the second half of the television series involves Alexandra, who is the daughter of Marion Forsyth, and she becomes a premier violinist as well. And it commences on the eve of World War II. And Royal Albert Hall is bombed, and she's pinned under the roof that collapses on top of her. And it's about her story back to stardom, and it involves all of the prime ministers. It involves both within Australia and in England, both world wars. So it spans the period from 1914 to about 2015. It's an extraordinary story.
Stevie, tell us a little bit about Heavenly Productions. What's its main purpose, and what do you want to achieve with that company?
It's my production company, which is at the helm of, various projects, feature films, television series, a number of those in sort of pre-production or in development. Music, covering just about every genre. Music scores. My compatriot and I have written a massive, incredible rock opera for the world, incorporating as the last frontier to stage theatre and IMAX screen. And when I wrote those in 2007, it was over a period of about 10 weeks. And it was sort of from 1 a.m. every day till about 4 p.m. in the afternoon, then I'd go to the law office. So for 10 weeks there, I probably only slept 2 hours a day, but I was given heaps of energy. I was given so much energy, I didn't really need to sleep that much. 2 hours was like fine, and I'd get up and do it again. So we've got this massive rock opera called To the Wizard Kings. Rock opera trilogy, which is like a 3-book trilogy. So that's for the future too. But there's a number of other projects, like 2005 when I was at the film festival in Los Angeles. I wrote the reunion Return to Hanging Rock, which is an amazing story. It's sort of like an international story, but it also has storyline B, brings back 100 years. They reunify and come back. This is the granddaughters and great-granddaughters come back to Hanging Rock. So that's a television series or a feature film, whereas these projects will bring light and entertain, but also educate people as to where the human race should go. And if we don't go there, we won't survive.
Summing up, is there anything that you think that you would have done creatively differently with any of these projects?
No, nothing. It's all, unravelled or unfolded rather, in the way it should. Many people have said, it's a shame you didn't do it in your 20s or your early 30s, but I didn't have the insight at that stage, and the universe was not about to allow me to begin those things when I wasn't ready, and then to be a lawyer, to become a master of words. Over the years you become quite a master of words because you're at it day in and day out, and so becoming a lawyer actually has helped me become a writer. you know, I wrote two little songs when I was 17 or 18, but and then I put them away. They were just babies, you know. And I didn't really know that I could write music at all, because I can't read music. I just write it. I just listen, and I sort of like adapted a few chords on the guitar to piano, and come up with some things that Mr. Malini has spent hours trying to work out what chord structure and notes that I was trying to create, because I was hearing a clash of minor and major, and it was it's probably in some ways where Michael would like to take it, you know, the sounds, and of course there are going to be other instruments that are going to be brought in over the years, and with computers and everything like that are going to create the most amazing future in music. It's amazing though. It's somewhere where I have to go. I will go. I will spend the rest of my life doing this.